Alright, here we go again, and this time I'm going to talk about the very last warp room of this entire game, at least before the main boss. That being warp room 5, and we're starting off with the very first level, and that is this space station. I'm sorry, but this is to me the most boring warp room, and that's because the themes that appears are not really that fun to go through. And sadly, level 21 is a showcase of exactly that. This level looks really boring, the music isn't really as great as it could have been, and these enemies, while they definitely do fit the theme well enough, and I can at least say, you know, they're not terrible. It just comes off like they had a vision, they had an idea, and even though that idea was pretty good on paper, in theory it simply doesn't turn out to be anything but a boring space station. Because the thing is, this is a 2.5D level where you basically are running mostly on a 2D field in a 3D environment. And while that has worked with several levels, it hasn't really been that great overall. And that is the problem with this level. It's sort of uninspired, kind of dark, not really that fun. The enemies are not really that memorable to me. And yeah, this just feels like this was a great idea on paper, but it wasn't really that great in execution. And what the developers, I think, were really proud. I would be proud of this level as well. I'm not too impressed by it. And because I just simply don't really like much of the enemies, much of the obstacles, I will sadly have to place this level at last place on this list. With that being said, no disrespect to anyone that worked on this level. I bet they were really proud. But sadly, for me personally, I'm going to place it at last place. So, like I said, the bear chase level is gone. However, it is now time for another anti-chase level, and that is this level, which is a jetpack one. So you are kicking off in this warp room chamber, and you have to hop on a jetpack for some reason, to get to the end and finish the level. So this is a vehicle level, and this is a taste for what's about to come later. And I would say this actually is a pretty decent level. It actually is really fun. Sure, you know, it's a vehicle level, so it's always going to be placed lower for me on these kind of lists. But you know, for being a vehicle level, it's just a really fun one. You basically are always on the move. You cannot back away or you cannot go back. You basically have to always be constantly on the run. And while that does sound really bad in theory, in practice, it is not that awful. You have to hold on the X button to speed up, and then you are simply spinning with the square button. Of course, release the X button when you want to slow down. So this requires a fair amount of timing, and you need to always be constantly up in midair. For the bottom is dangerous. And there are cables along the way which is going to destroy you. There are scientists, there are nitro crates. There's basically a lot of things that this level does really well in order to provide a fair challenge. Now, like I said, this one is sadly a bit too boring for me, or a bit too whatever it may be for me to actually be able to enjoy it. Of course, it does have its fans. I'm not going to say that there is none. There's a lot of people who like these kinds of levels. I simply don't, because I'm not really a big fan of vehicle levels in these kinds of games. I like straight up platforming. And because of those reasons, I'm placing this level at number 4. So, at third place and taking the bronze is this level, the last level of this entire main game. Yes, this is spaced out, and it is a level which is the same as the previous level, but it has more technicality. There are a few more timing-based puzzles which you actually have to do, which makes me appreciate this level more than the previous. And these puzzles are actually somewhat satisfying to actually go through, which does make it at a higher spot on this list. But the problems is of course the same as the first level, pissed it away. And that is how it's basically just a really boring thing. The music is immemorable. It is thankfully more memorable and well liked, and to me it is definitely a way better level than the previous one. And for those reasons, I have placed Spaced Out at place 3. Alright, at second place it is Pack Attack, and this is the very last jetpack level of this entire game. So yeah, this is once again a repeat of the previous level, but I like this one more since there's just more of a challenge, more of a fair challenge. Of course, while I said I didn't necessarily like two vehicle levels, this one is a-okay. It has one new enemy, and that is the scientist, which you actually have to spin away while his electric hands aren't charged up. That is a nice idea. And you know, I did say it is the same thing, but with a new enemy and some more time-based puzzles, which I very much appreciate. So yeah, because of the challenge and because, oh well, in my sad opinion, low competition in this warp room, I will actually have to place this one and second place. With that being said, a worthwhile second place. So at level 23 and the first stage of this warp room is the jungle level Night Fight. So this is actually the most unique level in this entire game, because as you notice, this level is set in complete darkness. Now this is also the first time that you actually need an alternative source in order to get around. That is this fly that will carry you for a while. Just remember though that the fly will fly away at some point, then you have to reach the checkpoint in complete darkness before you can actually reach it. And it is the usual enemies. There are a couple of them more, that being these aliens, which I show towards the end. Now that also means that some of the enemies which were originally present in previous levels, such as this lizard in Road to Ruin or Ruination, he appears in this, and he's slightly bit faster. And since this is probably your first encounter with it, you will not really see it coming. As you can see, I died on this level because of it, and that is a great thing. Challenge to you: try to get to the death route in this level. It is not going to be easy, and not to mention you only really have to hear the sound of nitro crates, as you cannot actually see them ahead of you. It is a really unique level, and fun fact, this is actually one of the only few complete darkness levels. There are a few more which you will find out in later games. The challenge is fair, and so are the enemies, which are really great. We have a perfect idea for a final level, and it overall comes off like the developers genuinely, much like Unbearable, wanted to save this level to be the definitive end to this very thin level in this warp room and in the main story, which is very much appreciated to me. So yes, this level lands at a comfortable first place in this warp room. But to summarize this one warp room, I just don't really think it's that great. It's not really that fun. I think a lot of the themes are really boring. Now the only reason why I placed this one is because it is something that did something very special with the theme. And yes, I know that Rocket and Pack Attack were different things, but they were brand new for this warp room, and it wasn't like this had been attempted before and experimented with. This was the first time, and sadly they didn't really impress me. But Night Fight was a level that I enjoyed the most, and therefore it's placed at number 1. And that was the ranking of all warp rooms in Crash Bandicoot 2. Now I will do a special video soon enough. See you then.